Welcome to another owningandallotment.com video. Today I'm down the plot quite early, and you can see it's quite bleak and barren. It's middle of winter, of course, or spring as some might say, but personally I feel like it's still winter. And you can see that the mild weather we've had has brought up the rhubarb. Bit concerned about that, as given the previous years we're likely to have a cold snap later this month, maybe next month, and that could well damage the rhubarb. So this needs a good mulch of something, so I'm going to check my compost and see if I can mulch that. There is horse manure on the site, but unfortunately it's fresh, so I can't really put that on the rhubarb, as there's a risk that it will burn the crowns. But you can see, nice well established plot, lots and lots of rhubarb, and I think that perhaps not this year, but certainly next year, some of these need dividing. So you can see this one here, it's a huge clump of rhubarb. I can certainly dig some of that up, and I can move it back. There's a gap there, and maybe around where the summer fruiting raspberries are. Frankly, they underperform every year, those raspberries. The autumn fruiting ones are much better, so I would probably get rid of those and get that tree stump out when I get round to it. But you can see over here that I've put most of my beds to bed, so to speak, for winter. So these are all covered, they're filled with manure. It was fresh manure when I put in there. I've covered them, and you can see there's sort of wind damage there where wind and rain has caused them to collapse. So I'm going to have to repair all these, and those are filled, but unfortunately I ran out of weed membrane, so I'm going to order some more weed membrane, and then that one will be covered as well. They're just covering the raised beds helps speed up the composting process, and it helps it break down a lot quicker. It keeps the worms that are doing the composting nice and warm, and it means that basically come springtime all I do is uncover these and start planting. There's none of this heavy digging, which you can see if I go over here to a quick peek at my neighbour's plot. You can see they've cleared, dug and manured the area there, which, considering they're retired and sort of late 60s, they're doing a very good job. But I don't personally like digging. I think it takes a lot of my time up, that I'd rather be doing something more interesting. So I've gone for the raised beds. You know, once you've got family, jobs and all that, having the time down here can be difficult. So the last thing you want is to have to spend hours and hours down here digging. If you can do something like this, where literally you just uncover the beds, top it up with a little bit of compost and then start planting, that saves you an awful lot of time and makes, in my opinion, an allotment a lot more manageable. I know if I had to dig over this entire plot every year, I probably wouldn't have it. I just do not have the time. Now here we've got the garlic I planted. This is a carrot bed, and there's two others. There's one there and one there. Now the carrots I put in last year in about June, and they did very well. Now the problem I had is I did have a slight attack of carrot fly after I have started thinning them out. So what I've done is I'm planting garlic, and I've got some onions to plant in the other two beds, and carrot fly doesn't like the smell of garlic and onions. So I'm planting garlic in them, and then hopefully that will keep the carrot flies off. What I will do this year is I have some scaffolding netting I've obtained, and I'm going to build little frames to go around these beds and just net them off and protect them from carrot fly. But what I will do with these beds is, you can see the soil levels dropped. This was about an inch from the surface. Soil levels dropped, and I will dig in probably 3 or 4 bags of sand into each of these beds. Now I've tried growing carrots for a long time. I have never ever succeeded, and last year was the first time I ever got a decent crop of carrots. And I mixed up well rotted horse manure with some compost and some sand, and I had huge crops of carrots. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen the pictures that I've shared of them, and they were absolutely fantastic. I cannot believe how good they were. So this year, same beds, but I'm going to dig in a lot more sand, and you can see the soil levels drop quite significantly on all of them. So what I will do is I'll dig in sand and some really fine compost, build them up, and then plant again in them, because like I said, they have done so well. I am so pleased with them, and I'm looking forward to planting lots of carrots this year. In fact, I'm still eating them out of the freezer. These are, if you remember, I planted some saffron crocuses, and these are them, and they're not doing too badly. I did get some saffron. I got a pinch of saffron I think last year, which in the first year is to be expected, but this year you can see they've all come up. To be fair, every single one of the bulbs that I planted has come up, and they've grown very well, so I'm looking forward to a much better harvest this year. Again, I'm going to top that with a bit of sand, maybe just loosen the soil up a little, and look after them, but they look very good. So far, as I said, it's a bit quiet. I haven't really planted a lot over winter. We've had a lot going on, so I've not really been able to do as much as I want, and unfortunately where we live it seems to just rain all the time. Now, if you are planning on pruning your apple trees, now's the time to do it. So I would get out there and do it before spring comes and they start really budding. These I am training to grow horizontally, so they're going to get trained along wires. I've trimmed them slightly. You can see I've trimmed sort of where they were crossing and where they were coming out towards the path, and same with this one. I've trimmed the same there, stopped it going out towards the path, and just cut the main leader off so that it doesn't grow too tall. At the weekend I'm going to go and get some stakes. I'm going to put some stakes in the ground, get some wires on them, and start training those along. And I've got some baby apple trees. There's one there, and there's two more to go in down here, and they're going to form a living fence that goes down this side of the plot, and underneath them there will be some of these pallet collars, and the pallet collars will be full of sort of leafy vegetables, flowers, things like that. So I'm going to plant lots of stuff in those, and these are going to be planted on top of the weed membrane, just to make it easy. Now, that's the autumn fruiting raspberry plot. If you've got autumn fruiting raspberries, you still cut them down. Get them cut down ASAP. Autumn fruiting raspberries produce fruit on new growth. Summer fruiting raspberries produce fruit on last year's growth. So over there you can see that you might be able to see in the video, there's some canes that are sort of white and look quite dead. Those are the ones that have to come up. They're the ones that bore fruit last year. I cut some down, but then they lost all the leaves and I couldn't remember which ones fruited. But the white ones are the ones that need to go, so those will go. But these, you can see I've cut them all down. I've got a nice pile of leaves over there, the shoots over there. All of those will get burnt later in the year. And there's this that I inherited, so I'm going to have to be brave at some point and empty that, because frankly it smells horrible and I really don't know what's in it. So I'm going to have a look at that and try and sort that out soon. Asparagus bed was over there, and you can see the asparagus is there. It's all been dug up, it's all been cut down. If you haven't cut your asparagus down, then get it cut down ASAP, as it will be producing new shoots soon. Again, that's going to get all burnt. There's no point keeping it here. This year I've actually bought some potatoes, so I'm going to have a go with potatoes over here. But again, that's a job for another day. And you can see my bay tree is doing well, and somewhere down here you can just see them starting to come up there. Just there is some chives. There's quite a few chives around here. There's quite a few little patches. It's self-seeded, so I need to come through here very carefully on the day when it's not raining and try and get all the chives together and get rid of everything else. And that's the remains of a Cape gooseberry plant that I grew last year. It did all right. Unfortunately, it didn't quite have enough time to mature properly and produce all its fruits, which is a bit of a shame. But then I didn't actually like the fruits anyway, so no great loss. But that's just me anyway. The bay trees are doing fantastically. I've got lots and lots of bay trees at home. I've been busy looking into herbs. I've been writing a new book about herbs, which should be out in the next couple of months. And bay leaves are really good. I've started to use them in everything. So really good. And that's the marjoram next to it that just needs cutting down again. Blackberries likewise, if you haven't cut them back now. before they start to sprout. In fact, you can see these are, I have cut back, but you can see they're starting to produce shoots already. Blackberries, again, they produce fruit on the previous year's growth. So this is the new growth from last year. All the old growth has been cut back, so these will produce fruit. And I must admit, in the first year I didn't really know what I was doing with blackberries, and I just left them to it because that's what you do in the wild, and I had a terrible crop. The second year I cut them right back and just left their previous year's growth, and I had a fantastic crop. I have got more blackberries than I know what to do with at home. I've got a drawer in my freezer that's pretty much full of them, where I had so many off the plants last year. And you can see the fence is a bit weakened, so I'm planning on actually extending this fence along and growing them a bit further along, because I actually really like blackberries. I'm very pleased with those, so quite happy with that. And then just round the corner here, there's the I think they're called Japanese wandering onions, and a couple of blueberries that are doing all right. And these beds need completely redoing. They're falling apart, they're absolutely full of mare's tail, and they just need ripping out. So I've left them where they are for now, because I've got a lot of other work to do, but they are certainly going to be replaced. Probably not with brick. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm going to find a use for the bricks. I mean, you can see where the bricks are just piled, they're all collapsing and it's falling down, so not so good. And there's the two other trees, two apple trees. I'm going to have to look back on videos and photos to find out the varieties, because these are ones I grafted myself last year, which was actually really, really good fun. And to my surprise, they've both all three trees that I grafted have taken, so really, really pleased with that. So those are going to get moved to over there to form part of the living fence, and just try and sort of contain the plot and maximise the use of my space. But that's it. You can see there's all sorts of rubbish still here, still trying to sort it all out. I've found those builders bags, they were right down the back there where my compost heap is, and I no word of a lie, I've got about 9 or 10 of them stuffed in there. I found them over there full of rubbish and compost and God knows what else. So I cleared them all out. I did loads and loads of trips to the tip last year. And you wouldn't believe it looking at all this, but yeah, I did. This is all the stuff that I think, oh, it might be useful. So I've kept all this for now, but I'm going to be quite brutal later on in this year, and I'm going to go through this, and anything that isn't useful is going. End of. So got lots and lots to do here. I know it's sort of winter and it's difficult to get down to your plot, but try and get down and just keep on top of stuff. If you can't weed it, cover it. This black weed membrane, you buy it off Amazon. It's not too expensive, but it's very, very good. It lasts for years and it keeps the weeds down. So at least cover your plot so that you can you're not, when spring comes, you're not fighting with all the weeds that are there. You know, last thing you want to do is dig your plot like sort of the people over there have, and then you come back to your plot in 2 months time thinking, great, I can start planting, and realise that it's knee deep in weeds. Because unfortunately, as soon as you start digging your plot, the weed seeds that are underground come to the surface and then they start to germinate. So that's why when you dig, you end up with an awful lot more weeds. But cover your plot over the bits you're not using, do all your structural work, think about what you're going to grow. You can start off your tomatoes and chilies indoors now. It's about the right time of year for that. And look at getting your plot ready so that when spring comes, you can start planting and really, really make the most of your allotment. Let me know how you're getting on. Any tips, suggestions or advice you've got, I'm more than happy to receive. Looking forward to hearing from you. Tell me how you're doing on your plot, and hopefully I'll record another video soon. It's just started raining for me, so I'll be heading off in a few minutes, and we will catch up very, very soon with another video. So good luck down at your allotment. Drop me a line with any questions or queries that you might have, and I look forward to talking to you very, very soon.